3 o'clock on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome aboard the Postgame Show. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. We appreciate you being with us. Lots to get to on today's program. Our buddy Mitch Light of The Athletic will join us bottom of the hour. Recap last night's College World Series Game 3, do or die. If you didn't watch, I hate to say this, the 6-5 final score probably doesn't do the game its proper justice. I suppose it could in a way, but I would tell you for a one-run game, it wasn't that close. Once Tennessee kind of put their foot down, it felt as like, man, A&M, you're just not going to get it done. And I'm not saying, you can't like predict it and go like, Tony Vitello says, hey boys, let him score a couple. Just throw the ball down the middle. Like you're not doing that either. But it was a good game. I mean, it was well pitched for the most part. The best team won. Whether a lot of Southeastern Conference fans wanted to see Tennessee baseball and especially today Vol Twitter go nuts the way it has. They were the best team. They were number one, duh. But they were just more complete. I'd love to have seen A&M come into this thing full strength. Would it have made a difference? I don't know. But when your best player basically goes, he was, right?
Yep. He'll be a top 10 pick in the MLB draft.
I think they're like Tennessee. They got a few guys that are really good, but Montgomery, and he had experience at this level with Stanford before he transferred into A&M. So I'd like to have seen that. It's not an excuse because Texas A&M. I saw some of the numbers, Elijah. Over 3 games, aggregate score 15-15. I think the aggregate hits was like 1 in favor of A&M actually. Yeah, just a few things like that. It was a very even series. Mm-hmm. It was. Tennessee's a better baseball team. And the most important one is you get 3 games, and you got to win 2 of them. And that's what Tennessee did. So they're the number 1 team in the country. Unfortunately for Tennessee fans, they're going to be immediately made to sweat. Because as most of you know, you heard us yesterday, Texas made it official yesterday and fired 8-year head coach David Pierce, who took them to 3 College World Series and won the Big 12 3 times. But that's not enough in Austin, and he's out. I know last night, this is one of the things I'll freely say, for those of you who, get mad at the media, I sometimes do too, as somebody who's been in the media for, half my life. I don't like the immediate post-game question to a coach about his or her immediate professional future in a moment when they've either just won or lost. And if I'm correct in saying, I don't think Tony Vitello got the question about Texas, did he?
If he did, I must have missed it.
I don't think he did.
Not heard it.
I don't think he did. But Jim Schlossnagle did. Jim Schlossnagle did. Both men that were head coaches last night have direct ties to Chris Del Conte, the athletics director at Texas. Vitello actually worked for Schloss at TCU before moving into the Dave Van Horn team. I think Tony Vitello is going to be their top target. Now, does that mean they get him? I don't know. And if you're just coming off a national title, hard to leave.
And the school is going to make you the highest paid coach.
Tennessee,
in the sport.
You and I talked about it this morning, and I think we've touched on this a couple of times in the last, little bit. The only thing Tennessee doesn't have, and it kind of started last night, but it's still, but the only thing Tennessee doesn't have is they're not Texas. And I don't just mean like they're not in Austin or they're not UT. The Texas baseball program is considered the premier program in the country. Now, it's changed a little bit of late. Back in the day, it was Coach Dato and what he did at Southern Cal. Coach Burtman elevated LSU to a point where they contended with Texas, but Coach Garrido kept Texas right where Texas was supposed to be. They won titles. Again, even David Pierce took them to Omaha 3 times in 8 seasons. Won 3 conference championships in 8 seasons in a great baseball league where Baylor goes and TCU goes and Oklahoma goes and Oklahoma State goes. Texas Tech. I mean, that Big 12 baseball kicks butt. But again, not enough. And that's my point. Tennessee has all the financial resources going for it, except for the fact that they're not Texas. And if Texas has to push a little bit harder or overpay, I think they will. I don't think Tony Vitello is going to be the Texas head coach. But John Whittle threw out a tweet earlier this morning. Like, what do y'all think is going to happen? I was like, you got to make Vitello tell you no twice.
You got to bug him.
I mean, you do.
Because he's the best coach in college baseball right now. If you want to be the best, that's the fish you need to catch.
Yes, that's it's a debatable point certainly on who the quote best coach is. But with what he has done for a program that quite honestly really didn't give a crap about the sport, took a flyer on a good up-and-coming assistant for one of the better head coaches of his generation. Like, well, let's see what he's learned. And again, he had coached with Schlossnagle, too. So
he coached under two of the best coaches.
Yeah, let's see. It won't cost us much, and if it doesn't work out, well, nobody's coming anyway.
Right.
And it's worked out better than even the most wide-eyed optimist could ever have imagined in Knoxville under Tony Vitello. I mean, 2 times the best team in the country going into the playoffs. Now they finally had their championship, and they'll be poised to continue to do this as long as he's there. And as you've already mentioned, they'll give him the resources. But Texas will need to make him say no twice. I firmly believe, maybe not the initial first-year salary, but I do believe that whatever contract Tony Vitello gets at whichever school he coaches for, that's whichever UT he coaches for, because it ain't going to be anybody else. It'll be a UT in Orange. His contract will ultimately have him making $3 million a year. I absolutely believe that. He's going to become the top-paid coach in the country. What's today? Tuesday? By Friday.
Certainly. Well, yeah, and it's from what I've been told, but by a few people, it's not, I'm not breaking news, but Tennessee and Vitello have been, it's been discussed on how they're going to be able to make it worth his while before the College World Series, and now at this point, I think they have no choice but to give him all the resources they
can. Add 20%.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
That's what happened last night.
Yeah, and by winning the national championship. Yeah, and here's the thing too. We're going to find out exactly how much the Texas name means, because this is the premier job in college baseball right now. Or is it? I mean, when was the last time they won a national championship? 2005?
Yeah, I think that's right. I know. Let's see. Yeah, it sounds right. Yeah, because they beat Carolina in 2002, and then Coach Garrido, they did win another one.
Mac Brown won a title at Texas in football in January of 2006.
Yeah, and played for another one about 5 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's my point.
They're kind of a has-been at this point, too.
That's
Even
fair.
though they have been to 3 Omahas in 8 years.
That's
is
the
their
difference.
Expectation outgrowing what the program is currently?
I think they are witnessing to a large degree the same thing that has been happening here.
Mm-hmm.
The landscape changed around you. Now, Texas has kept up more than South Carolina has. Because, again, they've been to 3 World Series in the interim period where Carolina went to 3 in a row and played for the title each time. But Texas is looking around right now and going, oh, Oklahoma's pretty good. Oh, Schlossnagle's pretty good at A&M. Oh, LSU won another title under a different coach. All of a sudden here, like LSU has won national titles under 3 different men in the last 25 years. Mm-hmm. So to your point, Texas is still going to be seen the way it is, but I don't know that there is that one job that stands above all others today. And honestly, if you really put the proverbial gun to my head, I might tell you it's LSU, not Texas.
Yeah.
But it also
Make
be
that case.
A really, tight amount of space between the two. But Texas has the resources. Tennessee does too. Mm-hmm. Texas has more. Texas has more of everything. And again, if Texas has to overpay, I don't know where the line will be, Elijah. I genuinely don't. If they really, really want Tony Vitello, I mean, I'm going to get outlandish for a second, okay, just to make my point. So a little hyperbolic here. Would you have a deal that was, say, 7 years, $30 million? maybe 8 years, $30 million, not quite up to the $4 million mark, plus whatever the staff needs to make. Like, if Texas knew they were in a bidding war, eventually does Tennessee have to, like, go, ugh. I told you a story one time. I'll tell you all a quick story. Many of you that are old enough remember the old store or the old diner, Martin's Eats, down where the Walgreens is now near Fort Jackson Boulevard, Divine Street, down that way, okay? I was at the auction when they closed, and y'all might remember they had that classic old painted sign that said, please, no profanity. Because, you know, at night, on weekends, you'd have soldiers, you'd have students, you'd have locals all in there. Everybody had been drinking. Everybody was having a good time. But sometimes, even in the nicest possible way, you might let some fly, right? And again, where they were located. I got into a bidding war because I wanted that sign real bad. And I prepared for it, I thought. I was like, I'm going to do this. This was a splurge for me in my mid-20s. And I finally got to a certain point, and a dude kind of just nudged me and goes, hey, listen, he's not going to stop. And I looked over at the guy, and I could tell
he wasn't going to stop.
Like our buddy Fast Chad said the other day, this dude had on a collar and a belt. So I knew
he had some serious dough.
Serious coin. And that might be kind of the same analogy here. Like, Tennessee's they're ready, but can they? And I don't think it comes to that. And I think Tony Vitello is going to appreciate what Tennessee has done for him, what he's done for them. I think he likes Knoxville. Again, Lindsey Nelson will now become a showplace. They'll spend a lot of money on it. So,
and the expectation will never be what it is at Texas. He can go to 3 Omahas in the next 8 years at Tennessee, and if they don't win it all, he's not getting canned.
That's fair. That's fair. But, you know, as Texas comes into the league, they need to make a splash. If not, Brian O'Connor, Eric Bakich, I just don't
Both
see.
would be big splashes.
I don't see Jim Schlossnagle doing that. Apparently there's a lot of chatter out that way. I read in the Austin paper and on the Texas 24/7 site that they may make a run at Jay Johnson. Here's the thing. I think somebody named Johnson might be that coach. It might either be Jay Johnson from LSU, it might be Skip Johnson from Oklahoma, or Wes Johnson from Georgia.
What are they taking Oklahoma's coach would be wild too.
Again, though, here's the thing. Texas will pay you more money. And we can all sit here and think to ourselves like, well, it's not about the money. But you know what? It will be at some point. I mean, it certainly can be. And that's why I said, would Texas go just way above and beyond and shatter the market? I don't know. They might. Help me out. Who's
could.
You know, like when Clemson started paying coordinators just gobs of money.
It inflated the coordinator market.
Yeah, you know, and now LSU's kind of taking that one and run with it too because they got a guy for, you know, they got a coordinator making $2+
to fix that defense.
But Clemson felt like we got to do this. We gotta have it's Lincoln Riley's brother,
Garrett
right?
Riley.
Garrett Riley. You know, he's making a bunch of money up there.
I want to say at the time when he was hired was the highest paid coordinator.
Yeah, I think so.
And now Coach Baker at LSU, I think, is
might
that
be like
now.
yeah, Garrett might be 4th or 5th, but regardless, sometimes you just if you really want it, again, something is worth what someone's willing to pay, despite the fact that there's only 1 or 2 coaches in the country. I think Corbin and O'Sullivan that are making in that $2 million range.
Mm-hmm. I think Corbin's like, what, 2.4?
I think so. But I'm telling you, by the end of the week, Tony Vitello is definitely the highest paid coach in the country. It's just a matter of which school he's coaching. Mm-hmm. So I feel for Tennessee fans in the sense that they get to celebrate by going, is Tony leaving? Maybe. Clemson fans sweat a little bit. Eric Bakich might be on the way out.
Might be getting a call.
Never know. 803-404-6100. More on the World Series. Mitch Light coming up, bottom of the hour. Love talking with him about this situation. Joe Person in the 4 on what happened in Charlotte last night and what it means for the NFL moving forward. It's the Tuesday postgame show. 20 minutes after 3 o'clock on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Mitch Light of The Athletic will join us coming up in about 10 minutes. We'll stay with an athletic theme today. That's the publication and the sports. Joe Person.
It's a double entendre.
Yeah, Joe Person will be with us coming up in the 4. Last night, the Charlotte City Council approving $650 million in tax money to help fund the revitalization, if you will, of Bank of America Stadium.
Sounds more like a charity case at this point.
David Tepper will put in $150 million to start. Claims he's already paid for some things. I don't know what. And
drinks.
Says that he'll also throw in a little bit more over time. Promises.
He's certainly not donating to the Carolina Panthers organization of football players who don't play good.
You could play
Charity
on the crappiest field with the most rickety old wooden stands, and like the only concessions available were unsalted roasted peanuts and flat beer. And if your team was routinely advancing in the playoffs, people would care and go.
Yep. People would pay good money to buy tickets.
Yes.
Not just buy tickets.
Yeah. Like, what do they have concessions? Oh, man, they got terrible peanuts. Yeah. What kind of beer do they have? It was like flat, natty light. Yeah. How's the team? Oh, the team kicks ass.
All right. How much are tickets? All right, we're going.
I'm going.
We'll just tailgate extra hard before the game.
So we'll talk to Joe coming up in a bit. And I'm here for the reaction, not the ranking, but a little later. Elijah and I will share with you something that came out this morning. You know, as many of you now know, EA Sports college football franchise will be revived next month. And today they've been leaking out little bits here and there.
And they're going to up until the
they're teasing
release of
us.
the game.
They know what they're doing. This ain't their first rodeo. Today, they released their top 25 most difficult stadiums to play in terms of how they have figured this into the gameplay. And again, I'm just here for the reaction of those.
You're the messenger.
Who take it seriously.
So we can't shoot you.
That's right. Please don't. We just had a call off air asking, did Elijah and I really believe that Tony Vitello would leave Tennessee for Texas? I thought we said that. No, I don't. But do I think he's a viable candidate that Texas will really make a push for? Yes, I do. I don't think Texas is going to go. You know, Chris Del Conte isn't going to say, well, I can't get him. I'll just go on to the next guy. There's no one's off Texas's board.
Well, you don't fire a coach who took you to Omaha 3 times in 8 years, and you don't fire that coach on the eve or the night of the national championship game if you didn't think you had a shot at one of the 2 guys coaching in that game or the winner of that game. Yeah. If they really were on board with wanting to can Pierce, and they, I guess, didn't have an idea, wanted to go through more of a formal process, they're doing it when the season ends. I don't think the same way, like when we talk about Ray Tanner firing Mark Kingston, he didn't just wake up on the Monday after the regional loss to James Madison and think, nope, I think we need a change in our baseball program. They knew for a little bit. I think the timing isn't coincidental at all. I think that was one of the whole points is to
the Texas timing. You mean?
Yes, Texas timing.
No, I'm 100% with you. Absolutely on purpose.
Like I think they're definitely going to ask. I think there's maybe a 10% chance Vitello takes it because Tennessee's been working on him for a while, and they're going to give him everything he needs. And from a common sense standpoint, unless you are a diehard Texas fan growing up and you just want to be the coach of the Longhorns so bad, there is zero incentive outside of maybe a couple $100,000 maybe per year, because Tennessee will be able to reach it to a high extent.
Yes,
but the expectation is going to be significantly greater at Texas. You are going to have to start. You're never going to start from scratch at Texas, but you're going to be starting at a harder point than what you've already built. Year 1 at Texas will be harder than year 1 at Tennessee will be.
That's fair.
Because of what he's built there.
Well, and
so
again,
if you want to take a step backwards in a program that you've already surpassed at the moment over what's happened the last 3 years.
Yep.
And again, job security. Do you want to get fired for going to Omaha almost 50% of the time if you don't win at all? You don't. He can go to Omaha 3 more times in the next 8 years at Tennessee, go 2 and barbecue in each and every one of those, and it's not going to matter. He will be the head coach at Tennessee, making more money than almost anybody else in the sport for as long as he wants that gig.
I'll be curious to see if they do pass on Vitello, and we're going to talk with Mitch Light about this too, so we'll stay with this theme in addition to last night's game. But again, this has become the story. And that's the thing.
Because of the timing.
Yeah.
The timing has, made it to where this is kind of hijacked the discussion.
And again, to the point we're both making, Texas did it on purpose. They know what they're doing. Is the game tonight? I didn't realize that. Well, go.
I didn't check my ESPN app.
Sorry about it. You know what? Hang on. Scratch that release. David's still the coach until, let's say, Wednesday. Like, no, they knew exactly what they were doing.
Just schedule the tweet for tomorrow, please. Yeah.
And from what I can gather, they've been sitting on this.
Mm-hmm.
So, because we had heard whispers of it, but nothing was official, and then it kind of went dormant for about a week or so. But once this came out yesterday, I mean, even guys like Kendall Rogers were saying, and Kendall, for what it's worth, some of you know this, Kendall lives in Texas. But he basically confirmed without saying it, that multiple people in Texas knew this was going to happen. It was simply a matter of when the announcement came, and that there was no real surprise on the when it happened. Now, to come back to the point I think you and I made yesterday, if Texas A&M, for what it's worth, well, either of them, but since A&M won game 1, but if Texas A&M had won the title on Sunday afternoon, David Pierce is still getting fired Monday morning, and then it just becomes Texas going after one of the coaches that just played for the national title. Instead, it was like, well, they're going to be playing tonight. They're still going after him. So, they should have gone ahead and announced it on Saturday or Sunday, but they wanted, and you don't do the Friday news dump with this one.
Nope.
They were savvy. First thing Monday morning. Championship game. Oh, guess what? Headline 1B is now championship game. Headline 1A, Texas job vacant. So, but again, and whoever the caller was, sorry you didn't stay on the line, but or couldn't talk, whatever it was. But no, I think Tony Vitello will remain at Tennessee, but I think Texas will make one hell of a push for him. By the way, Skip Johnson at Oklahoma, who played for the national title 2 seasons ago, had hosted earlier this year, won the Big 12 this year. His buyout, only $200,000.
Oh my God, chump change.
I mean,
for Texas,
yeah,
not for me, but for Texas.
So, if you do want him, and you can get him, and he's from Denton, so
are you telling me North Texas has a shot at him? The Mean Green?
Just saying.
They might pry him from Oklahoma.
You never know. Mitch Light of The Athletic, covering college baseball all season. He's been with us several times this year. We'll recap last night's game and what does he think about the future of the UT job. Yeah, I meant that.
It's a double entendre.
Yeah, I meant that. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Hey, guys, sometimes we just don't feel like ourselves as we get a little bit older, and then we wonder why. And like, well, is it just my age? Nah, not necessarily. Don't wait for it to change. Don't wait for it to go away or just think that it will. Instead, figure it out. Go call Dan Bachnight and his team at the Men's Clinic. Dr. Bachnight will have a one-on-one consultation with you. You'll get to the root of the issue. You'll get back to feeling like you. What do you do every day? Where might the gaps in your life be? Diet, exercise, anything else that's going on? Other health-related issues. All those things can end up being big-time factors. No such thing as a one-size-fits-all treatment at the Men's Clinic. Call them up. Find out for yourself. 803-875-MENS. And you can learn a lot more about what they do. And who tells you all these things? TheMen'sClinicSC.com is the website. Again, get to feeling like you again with the experts, Dr. Dan Bachnight and his team at the Men's Clinic. Continuing our discussion of last night's College World Series finale as the Tennessee Volunteers are the national champions for the first time in school history. If A&M had done it, it would have been their first baseball championship as well, but it goes to UT, who also wins 60 baseball games in one season, a remarkable feat, and they are the first number one seed in the NCAA tournament to win a championship since the format change back in 1999. Miami was the number one team going into the tourney that year. They won a title. Nobody has done it since until last night. To discuss that and more, we welcome back onto the program Mitch Light, covering college baseball and more for The Athletic. Always good to have you, sir. How big a deal is this for Tennessee and the Southeastern Conference?
Yes and yes. It's a huge deal, obviously. And I don't blame the SEC, but any SEC-adjacent Twitter feed was promoting yet another national champion. The fifth different SEC school to win the national championship, which is amazing in itself. And I don't tweet a lot, but as I tweeted last night, it would be 7 different champs in 7 seasons if Arkansas would have caught the pop-up off the first base line in foul territory at Charles Schwab Field in 2018, if you guys recall.
Yep.
Literally with 2 outs in the 9th inning, needed to make one defensive play to win it. They don't catch it. Oregon State ties the game, wins game 2 and 3. So that, to me, is the most amazing part of it. Is we've seen teams dominate. We've seen Alabama, then Georgia, dominate in football. But when you can have so many different teams win the title, that says a lot. And for Tennessee, of course, it's huge. It's a huge deal. It's a program that was shockingly bad for about 12 years. So that's been kind of like after the Chris Burke era, I would say, up until like the Tony Vitello era. It's a program with we always thought had potential. Like, why are they so bad? Well, now they're very, very good. They've been knocking on the door, and they got through last night. So obviously a huge deal here in Tennessee and throughout the Southeastern Conference.
And when looking at this team in retrospect, I know, it can be easy to be prisoner of the moment when talking about a certain champion's place in the sports history, but Jay alluded to the accolades. I mean, 60 wins, SEC regular season and tournament champion, number 1 overall seed, and not only won the College World Series, but won the College World Series in a year in which it was all SEC and ACC teams. No Cinderella involved, no ORU walking through that door. But when you look at this team with everything they had in the lineup, with the starting pitching improving and the bullpen being as clutch as they were in a lot of the wins that they had, where do you kind of look at this team historically as opposed to maybe some of the other SEC champs that we've had in recent years?
Yeah, that's always difficult, Elijah. I mean, first of all, I don't have the frame of reference. I've been following college baseball for, 20 years closely, but not as close as I have in the past, 4 or 5 years. So I can't sit here and tell you, well, that 09, the South Carolina teams that went back-to-back were very good, but I can't sit here without really studying the roster. And it's all relative. Like, looking at stats can be dangerous because we know the different eras. But, yeah, I mean, it is fair to say that they're one of the most accomplished teams in college baseball history when you win the SEC regular season title, when you win the league tournament title, and then the national title. The 2019 Vanderbilt team did all 3 as well. I think you make a very good point, though, that winning this field is maybe the most impressive of the recent champions from the SEC we've seen, because they all, like I said when I talked to you guys earlier, every time I talked about this, you literally could make a case for every team in the field to win the national title this year, and you just couldn't do that last year. I mean, Oral Roberts was a great story. They weren't going to win it. Every year there's 3 or 4 teams that are hot, but you look at it, they don't have the depth on the mound. They can't win it. This year, like I thought the Florida State-Tennessee game, maybe you could argue, and the winner of that game in the opener was going to win the whole thing. And Florida State was the number 8 seed. Florida was our quote-unquote Cinderella, and we know how good they were. So, to answer your question, long-winded answer, Elijah, among the best that's ever played, but difficult, really, especially now, one day later, to say they're the best.
Yeah, that's a great point you make about Florida, too. I mean, because I'm with Elijah, no Cinderella, and yet a 3-seed Florida makes it in. It's like, but, as we talked about with you, I think, Mitch, and I know we did it a bunch, Yeah, when Florida got drawn into the Stillwater Regional, there's Nebraska and Oklahoma State going, are you bleeping serious, man? And then they go to Clemson. Are you bleeping serious, man? Yes, we're serious.
Yeah,
we're Florida.
Exactly.
So Mitch Light is with us talking college baseball. I mentioned this at the top of the show. Tennessee fans will certainly celebrate and revel in this, but they'll do it a little pensively because there's no question that the University of Texas is going to come after their guy. Now, how hard and exactly with what kind of fervor that happens, I do not know. But where do you stand on that in terms of Texas yesterday announcing this? No coincidence, Mitch. You've been in this business a long time. They knew what they were doing, and a lot of people think that these guys that coached last night might be Texas's top 2 candidates.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge story. Like, imagine if something like this, the magnitude, happened in college football. A program like Texas because it's the same similar type program in football on the day of the national championship, and like, we're going to choose between Nick Saban and Kirby Smart for who we go after. So, like, yeah, just an enormous story, and I can't see it happening. And Joe Rexrode, who writes for us at The Athletic, and Elijah knows well. He was out there, and he believes that. Well, Tennessee believes it's done all it needs to do to keep Tony Vitello. I don't think the relationship there with the athletic director has always been perfect. I think it's pretty good now. I think there might have been some dragging of the heels on facility stuff, but I think Tennessee thinks it's in the right place now. And I don't know. I just can't. If you saw Tony Vitello celebrating last night and the fans' reaction, like, I just can't see a coach leaving a couple days after winning a national title. And same thing with Schloss. I mean, imagine leaving your arch rival to go from Texas A&M to Texas after this. So, like, I understand the timing is very, very interesting. The fact that they did it on the morning of the game 3, and they're going to set their sights on those guys. No inside information here, but I'd be very, very surprised if they land either one of them.
And from a real big picture perspective, I mean, Texas, if they are to land a coach of Vitello or Schlossnagel's caliber, and they're able to make them one of the highest paid coaches in college baseball, if Tennessee makes Vitello the highest paid coach in college baseball, we see kind of like an escalation of arms races when it comes to coaching in a similar fashion that we do in football and basketball and other revenue-producing sports. With that going on, with the ACC and SEC dominating the landscape like they have, but there still being a decent amount of parity, what do you think this kind of says for the sport of college baseball and its growth?
I'm literally editing a column that I had to put down when the phone rang to talk to you guys, from Mitch Sherman, who covers Nebraska football for us, but he lives in Omaha, so he's covered the College World Series, and he wrote a column on the SEC's dominance and how it's not just, it's basically all sports. The money, the resources are there for all these sports, and the gap is getting bigger and bigger. So, you just look at like you said, Elijah, the coaching salaries are going to be astronomical now. I mean, I think Tim Corbin's the highest paid coach in the country at $2.3 million. I would suspect Tony Vitello will be over $2 million soon. Maybe Schloss will be over 2 as well. So people are seeing what this sport can do for a fan base, the type of money it can bring in. It's just growing in importance, and now everyone's keeping up with everyone else. And this is no slight to Missouri; they actually have a pretty good baseball tradition from their Big 12 days. But if you look at the league now, 15 of the 16 fan bases probably think they should be in Omaha 2 out of every 3 years, and you can't say that about football in the SEC as good as it's been. You can't say that about any other sport. I guess softballs you can, because all 13 teams made it this year. So I just think it's a monster that continues to grow, and the fact that the transfer portal exists and these teams are able to plug holes year after year. It's like in the past you might go and say, oh, well, we lost 5 key contributors. We might be a little weak at the corner outfield spots and second base. And we're going to have to – well, now you can go in the portal. And there's no guarantees, obviously, in the portal, but you can attempt to plug holes and improve your roster. So there's just fewer weak teams in the SEC every year.
Mitch, I agree with you what you said about where Vitello is. I told Elijah my prediction already today on the show is that by Friday he's the highest paid coach in America, not just in the SEC, or anywhere. I mean, of course, that's going to be the SEC probably for baseball, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's touching near $3 million, especially if Texas wants to have a bidding war. So I'm anxious to see where that one goes. If it's not Vitello or Schlossnagle, and I don't think it's going to be Schlossnagle, who else might you be looking at for the Texas job?
Well, I don't want to anger your neighbors up in the upstate there,
Right.
but I would call Eric Bakich, and I'm sure he's very happy at Clemson. It's a great job. He's had 2 great years. I've known Eric Bakich since he was an assistant at Vanderbilt when he was 24 years old, and so I'm not just saying this because I know the guy. He is a fantastic coach. He has the right temperament for any job in the country. So he would be my if the 2 guys coaching last night were the first 2 calls, he would be my 3rd call. So it just again, I think he has what it takes there. So there are a lot of good. Wes Johnson's another guy who doesn't have the track record, only at Georgia 1 year, quick rebuild there. So a lot of really good coaches out there. But as we've seen in all sports, all these revenue-producing sports, it's very difficult to pry away existing head coaches nowadays.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. And, again, it became the story. I mean, Texas baseball job is open, but certainly a big deal for Tennessee last night. Appreciate it as always, man. I know we'll shift gears towards football here in the coming weeks. We'll holler at you here soon enough. Always appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on. Take
You
care.
bet. That is Mitch Light of The Athletic. I should have asked you, is he going to be at Media Days?
I already asked. Off air. He will not be.
Okay.
The Athletic is sending a plethora of writers, but he will not be one of them.
Okay. All right. Lots more to do as the postgame show rolls on. 11 minutes in front of 4 o'clock on this Tuesday. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. It's the Postgame Show on the Game. Do want to remind you the craft beer card's back. You can spend $30 per location at 12 different craft beer stops all across the Midlands. That's a $360 value. Yours for only $79. Just go to 1075thegame.com, click on Sweet Deals, and learn more.
Accurately named.
Yep.
That's a sweet deal.
It is. Again, you could get a couple of them.
Invite us, please.
Yeah. Had a good time. I just last week I didn't get that fried green tomato BLT. They brought out other stuff. I don't think I would have had a chance to eat it, but
I definitely spoiled my dinner in a good way, though. I just saved the meal for the next day. But that was fantastic.
We made
Great apps.
We made corn fritter tacos last night.
Interesting.
They were banging, man.
That sounds experimental.
It was.
Corn fritter tacos.
Yeah.
Was it the first time you guys made corn fritter tacos?
Yep. We I love I
love the risk reward here for
I like fried food, but I like fried food typically when someone else is doing the frying, because frying food is
messy.
It's messy, it's smelly, it can be dangerous.
Hard to clean.
All those things. So we don't fry, at least we don't fry with oil a lot. I've got an air fryer, and I'll put some bacon on or something like that. There's occasion.
Oh, the air fryer is great. Yeah.
Dude, air fryer kicks. That's all. That thing's awesome. I need like 2 of them.
Lean, mean, ass-kicking machine.
Anyway, that was good. Thanks to Mitch Light for joining us. You brought up a really good point there about where this takes us, and I think we've already seen it to some degree, even here in Columbia, again, where baseball expectations are higher than most other baseball programs in America. Not only did Ray Tanner realize he needed to make a change for a variety of reasons, but once the change was made, the coaching budget was doubled.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say that every school is getting ready to double its coaching budget, but South Carolina had to double its coaching budget just to kind of get back into the regular neighborhood.
To compete.
Yeah. I don't, look, what if Georgia wants to keep Wes Johnson if Texas comes calling? We don't see as much of the leverage play in college baseball, at least publicly, because it doesn't move the needle. Maybe I'm naive when it comes to Dan Hurley and guys like that. Dan Hurley was already going to move himself into the neighborhood with Bill Self and John Calipari because he should be there.
Yes.
But maybe he was genuinely interested. But, whether it was a leverage play or not, it's going to work. We see it happen as soon as a college football vacancy especially opens up. 10 dudes get a raise, mainly because Jimmy Sexton represents all of them. So
Jimmy Sexton's really good at setting the market for the rest of his clients.
He just sends out a blast email first to his clients and then to the ADs.
They're all CC'd on the same email.
So, it's not that hard. But I don't know that we see as much of it occur in baseball. And even when we do it, things might have been incremental.
Mm-hmm.
But like I say, right now, it's certainly coincidence. But 3 dudes with the last name Johnson that all coach in the SEC could be on Texas's list.
It's a lot of Johnsons.
Maybe none of them actually coach in Austin. But
when you shoot at a high volume, one might hit.
But Wes Johnson's only been in Georgia for a year. But might UT look at him, Texas, and say, you know what? There's the guy. And what's left for him at Georgia right now? Best player in America just left. You got to go do it all again. Might you just want to start over at Texas? I'm just saying. Jay Johnson, you've already delivered at LSU. Again, like you said, now everything is sort of a start over every year to some degree.
To a degree.
That's just the world we're going to live in for a little while longer. Maybe forever. I don't know. I don't think we're anywhere close to collective bargaining in college athletics. Again, Skip Johnson, you've played for a national title. Your buyout is cheap. Now, again, it's weird that Texas could be targeting the coach from Texas A&M and or the coach from Oklahoma. But I think Texas would love to hire one of those 2 dudes.
Oh, for a multitude of reasons, and not just because they're really good coaches.
No.
There is going to be the joy of stealing a rival's head coach.
Yeah.
There's absolutely going to look. That's one of the reasons why they hired Chris Beard. Chris Beard was a really good basketball coach. He just come off of taking Texas Tech to a national title game. Texas Tech basketball national title game.
Probably should have won.
And probably should have won if their shooting guard's finger was an inch shorter.
Replay.
But they had no problems taking Texas Tech's head basketball coach and making him the villain of the Big 12. They embraced that.
Yeah.
They'll do the same thing. But ultimately, with all the variety of teams winning in the SEC, winning championships, with what Mitch said, with 15 of the 16 schools having realistic Omaha expectations year in, year out, it's the best possible thing for college baseball. And I think we'll kind of move on from this being a niche sport into being something that a lot more people care about nationally because of the money funneling into.
Well, the money's going to be there. And again, I say Tony Vitello gets himself paid. Hour 2 coming up. Love telling you about our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They have been doing it for more than 85 years. It being helping you with your banking services. We all need the bank, right? I mean, unless you want to be that guy that, put your money in a mason jar out back. I got to tell you, that's not the best way to watch your money grow and stay protected. But if that's you, cool. Otherwise, let me recommend Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. Checking, savings, credit cards, car loans, student loans, home equity lines of credit. Great ways to save there, especially if you've got some good equity in your home. Even mortgages, whatever you need money for. Even that dream vacation. Take the family around the world. Call Palmetto Citizens. Do it for lower rates and fewer fees. You see, earnings are returned to members that way. They don't pay shareholders. They've been doing it a long time. My wife and I are members. We love them. We use the Millwood branch. They've got 14 locations all across town. PalmettoCitizens.org is the website. Check them out. Palmetto Citizens. Achieve your potential. 4 o'clock on this Tuesday. Welcome back in. Second hour of the postgame show coming at you from the Herndon Chevy Studios downtown Columbia, South Carolina, along with Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Appreciate you being with us. Coming up in about 15 minutes, our buddy Joe Person covering the Carolina Panthers for The Athletic will be with us from Charlotte last night. Charlotte City Council voting 7-3.
A touchdown versus a field goal.
That's right. Which
Very
is
nice.
Also the score of most Panther games.
It certainly was for one of them. Like, not even joking. It's a fun quip, but I think that actually was a final from this year.
They voted to spend $650 million of tax money. To be fair, and we'll talk with Joe about this. It is a tax that is specifically geared toward major expenditures like this in Charlotte. It's a hospitality tax. And basically, if I what I read correctly is like it could pretty much only be used on like either the Panthers, Charlotte FC, the convention center, and maybe the Knights. I don't know. Maybe the Hornets. I don't, but it sounded more like really just the stadium or the convention center, man. Like it was. Any legislative group can find the right lawyer to write the bill accordingly, whatever it might be, Like I remember it wasn't a bill or a law, and I tried to get this guy on. Different kind of story, but just playing with the words. There was a representative from the upstate named Dan Cooper who was chairman of Ways and Means for a while, so very powerful across the street. And Dan was a massive Clemson supporter, which is fine, except for the fact that he's the guy who wrote like a resolution or had somebody write it that called for the South Carolina High School League to move football championships around the state to venues that, could match what Williams-Brice offered. Well, there's only one. But it was worded in a way. It
wasn't going to be in Orangeburg.
Right. It was worded in a way that it could have been anywhere. It didn't say you need to move it to Memorial Stadium in Clemson. It just said that it had the similar amenities and all these other, and it's like, well, there's only one place.
There's only one place that checks the box.
Yeah. And ultimately, even though I invited him on the show many times to say, like, hey, sir, why do you want to inconvenience so many families that have to go a lot farther away to play a state championship game? Never would come on the show. Never would. Don't know why. Yeah.
You're a scary man, Jay Phillips.
Yeah, that's what it is.
But speaking of scary, you're not far off on the whole score joke there, because one of the two wins that the Panthers did have was a 9-7 win against the Falcons. That's the one I was thinking of. Completely forgot that there were more votes in that city council last night than total points scored in their final game in that stadium that they're trying to renovate between the Panthers and Buccaneers. Buccaneers beat them 9-0.
The NFC South sucks.
Oh, it's disgusting. It's foul. That game gave the Buccaneers a home playoff game.
Man.
They played a home playoff game.
I think they're going to win 10 or 11 games this year.
The Buccaneers?
Yeah.
They could.
I think they might be okay.
But I do think there's the three teams in the NFC South, the three real football teams, the Falcons, Buccaneers, and Saints, are going to cannibalize each other a lot. And the winner of that division might have 9 wins.
The Panthers do get their first-round pick back this coming season, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Because they'll need
getting it back.
They'll need to use that top 3 pick for another good player before they're going to be any good.
They'll definitely be in the top 3.
You think they'll be? Are there odds on? I'm sure there are, but I don't know. You're more into that than I am. Are there odds on who will be the worst team in the NFL, thus getting the top pick in next April's draft?
Ooh, they definitely exist somewhere. The real question is just finding which sports book has those odds.
It'll be like the Cardinals will be number 2 at like plus 220. Panthers will be like minus 500.
Like, it is guaranteed. You win nothing for betting on the Panthers, and if it actually happens.
See if you can find that. I'm curious before we talk to Joe. Because, again, you could play in the crappiest facility known to man. If your team is good, people will support you. I feel for a lot of Panther fans, man.
quarter.
I really do. I mean,
That's terrible.
Your current owner has turned you into the Jets, and that's hard to do. You know,
Jets down south.
It's just hard to do. I really do. Again, my dear sweet Aunt Judy, who I adore.
Aunt Judy, cover your ears.
Well, she knows, man, because she'll call me. What's wrong with my Panthers? I was like, Aunt Judy, how long you got?
ESPN's FPI has the Patriots as the team most likely to earn the number one pick at 21.9%, followed by the Panthers at 20.8%.
What was the Patriots one again?
21.9.
So just barely.
And their chances for a top 5 pick are 66.3.
Panthers.
That's for Patriots.
Oh.
Panthers is 62.9. 84.7% chance the FPI has for the Panthers to earn a top 10 pick.
The Patriots had to fall before they can come back. That's the way the NFL works, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, by and large.
And here's the thing, too. I mean, I'm trying to think. The Patriots did end up finishing last in their division, so they're going to have an easier schedule. But the thing with the Panthers, too, they're going to have
the Patriots and Panthers will see each other probably.
Yeah, probably. They're actually going to have the easiest schedules in their divisions, and they're still expected to be last in their divisions. The difference between the Patriots and Panthers is that the Patriots share a division with the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Jets, who, even despite, all jokes aside, incredibly talented team that will not have Zach Wilson quarterbacking them. The Panthers are in the NFC South.
Yeah.
And they're still going to finish in last.
Let's see. Panthers regular season at New Orleans. Let's just roll through it real fast. At New Orleans, home with the Chargers, at the Raiders, home with the Bengals, at Chicago, home with the Falcons, at Washington, at Denver. Hang on here. Home with New Orleans, home with the Giants, home with the Chiefs. Ooh, there's a ticket.
Yeah. The Bengals game will be during South Carolina's bye week.
All right.
So your boy might be making a trip.
Home with the Bucks. At the Eagles. Home with Dallas. Home with Arizona. At Tampa. At Atlanta. They have a preseason game with the NFC East, except for Miami. New England, Jets, Buffalo. There you go. All right.
Dallas going to take
so
over.
no
take
no
over
New
the
England on the
again.
regular season schedule.
Unfortunate.
That's not. Dude, they're gonna. How'd they manage to get Cincinnati and Kansas City on the schedule for Charlotte?
That's a really good question.
Yikes, man.
Because usually you're only playing one other division where all 4 teams in a certain division from the different conference.
I guess this is it must be an AFC West year.
Yeah, because they have the Raiders and Chargers on the schedule
And Broncos,
as well,
and Broncos and Chiefs.
Your Denver Broncos.
Yeah, they're playing them in Denver. Maybe I should go to that. Anyway, all right, we'll talk to Joe coming up in just a little bit.
So much optimism.
Why be excited? That's the thing. I mean,
David Tepper didn't even bother showing up to the
yeah, like he didn't even
night.
show up to the city council meeting.
Guy sucks.
He just, I mean, at least show up, dude. He's probably on his boat somewhere, which is fine. Again, I'm not here to say how rich he is, or I'm not that guy. You make your money. This is America, man. I'm cool with that. Seriously, you can be worth.
You can make a lot of money and still be really bad at your job. Still be really bad at what you do.
Yeah, but you know,
which is the dream. Honestly, that's my life goal.
Sure,
I'd love to make a lot of money and be bad at what I do.
And I'm saying it's fine to be on your boat, but I mean, when you got something this big, show up. Show up.
Kind of a big deal.
Yeah, show up. Show the city and the people and the fans. Yeah, I'm invested in this, including with my time. Instead of following along on. Anyway, we'll talk to Joe coming up. In a little bit. Back to our, hang on, let me get this right here. Back to our following the story of what's going on with Texas baseball. Brent Zwerneman, who is, in my opinion, a lot like David Cloninger with the Gamecock beat. Brent is like David when it comes to the A&M beat.
Locked in.
Been doing it a while and very connected. Just tweeted out, Texas A&M's Jim Schlossnagle has a decision to make between staying at A&M or heading to rival Texas. The decision is likely by Tuesday night. Aggies brass trying to convince him to stay.
Oh, my God. The funny scenario, the funniest thing that could possibly happen just might happen. It's like Murphy's Law for humor.
He sent that out, for what it's worth, not 20 minutes ago.
So it's a development.
So this is, but I mean, that last sentence, Aggies brass trying to convince him to stay.
That last sentence is the one that's doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
That's the one that's that's supporting that entire tweet.
Wow.
Trying to convince him to stay.
It's
He didn't even
funny.
convince himself last night because he seemed that he was pretty
Yeah, well, and
convinced.
he didn't like that question, and I didn't like the question. I don't like the timing of those, but they have.
I get it.
They have become the norm in the business. Again, I don't like those either. But I'll be perfectly honest with you. If you had said simply because of where Jim Schlossnagle currently coaches relative to where Tony Vitello currently coaches, I would say it would have been more surprising to see Schloss leave A&M for Texas. Because, again,
For a rival.
it's the rival. And that has to mean something. But,
It's going to be amped up now they're coming into your conference.
But, I mean, you and I joked about it yesterday. If Jim Schlossnagle left A&M for Texas, he better get a security detail that's as good as the governor's. And to which you said, it better be better than the governor's.
Greg Abbott might need to help him out a little bit.
So, but that's, I mean, I don't know. And I guess, look, it happened. Like Monty Lee is coaching here, but Monty Lee didn't leave after a successful run at Clemson to become South Carolina's coach. This would be like if Dabo had left Clemson after the first title, or even
Or after they
just
lost
the
to
first
Alabama
playoff.
in the
Yeah.
championship game.
In the playoff,
He
yeah.
came to South
Right.
Carolina.
And that just wouldn't happen. Like
Yeah.
that I don't a Carolina or a Clemson fan, like that just wouldn't happen. It's just so again, I'd be more surprised by this, but maybe I shouldn't be. I don't know. Chris Beard is one thing.
Because Texas Tech
it's Texas
in
Tech.
Texas, there's
Like-
a steep difference.
Yeah.
Rivals, yes, but it's
Texas-
incomparable with athletic departments and resources.
It's almost more like, again, if we could put it into the parlance of our state, it'd be like getting somebody from Charleston or Coastal. That's how Texas is going to look at Texas Tech. With all
Texas
due
Tech, yeah.
respect, I'm not trying to diss Lubbock or Texas Tech. I'm just talking about that's how Texas is going to see it.
It will never be Texas in terms of admiration in the state, fan support,
Yeah.
alumni support as big, and which is saying a lot because Texas Tech has a lot of that too.
Yeah, a lot. It's a big school.
Big
school.
big school.
It's just an outpost.
Yeah.
It's just kind of out on its own. We'll keep following that one. Come back on the other side, though. Back into the Panthers story. Our buddy Joe Person of The Athletic was on hand. He's written a couple of good pieces about this, including how he worked the owner's name into a verb. That and more when the postgame show continues. 18 minutes after 4 o'clock on this Tuesday. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Jay and Elijah with you. Appreciate you being with us. Let's jump right into the big news going on in Charlotte last night. City Council approves more than $800 million in renovations for Bank of America Stadium. And hospitality taxes will pay for most of that. To discuss that and more, including how he has changed the English language, we welcome back onto the program our buddy Joe Person on the beat covering the Panthers for The Athletic. How are you, sir? How much fun is it to cover legislative meetings like that one last night?
Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time. Jay, thanks for having me, by the way. Sure. We're getting ready to jump into some vacation here later in the week, and I'm like, yeah, this would be good. I'll kind of ease on into vacation. Well, 3.5 hours later, and a whole bunch of filibustering and pontificating and waxing poetic, I'd kind of gotten my fill of local governance.
Should we? Let me ask it this way: should we be at all surprised that David Tepper was not at last night's meeting?
No, no, because I think his handlers. And sometimes you do wonder what if the handlers in Tepper's case are really doing their jobs. When we watched the video from Jacksonville, December 31st of last year, and the drink throwing, and then the popping into the Dilworth Charlotte area sports bar on his way to the draft to question the sign, the marquee that was outside the bar and the pub. So, but in this case, I think they did impress upon Dave Tepper, like, you don't need to be showing up, anywhere around this. You kind of hang in the back. I'm sure it was part of the private discussions behind the scenes, which that's a whole nother issue. Like, I think those were going on way before anyone at the Charlotte City Council decided to tell the public about it. But yeah, I think it was, and there were a couple. It sounds like you were kind enough to read The Athletic today and see the story. Like, there were a couple, one in particular, council women who took shots at Tepper.
Yeah.
And that drink throwing incident.
Yeah, the drink. Yeah, one said we would throw something at us. I was like, oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah. That got interesting.
Yeah.
And listen, I referenced this earlier, but a lot of those council members knew that there was a lot of media in the room,
yeah.
and so I think they took pains and took some strides to make sure they had their voices heard, and in some cases it made for some interesting sound bites.
Yeah, Joe, in reading that, I definitely sensed the feeling of distrust between City Council and David Tepper. But is there anything that you think that maybe he can do, or what's maybe the bare minimum here for somebody in Tepper's position trying to get what he wants, to get pushed through, I guess, to be able to amend that a little bit, because the relationship between him and the city and really him and the NFL world isn't fantastic.
Following through with this deal would be a good start, because I don't need to remind you guys about all the angry politicians in Columbia who went to bat for him on the Rock Hill deal, just to see that get completely scuttled while there was steel and rebar, and a lot of it sticking out of the ground in Rock Hill, along with a new interchange on I-77, by the way, with the cost of millions of dollars. And Tepper's side, there was fault in that particular situation on both sides of it. Like, I get it. It wasn't all Tepper, but I still, the thing I've told people, that I don't think Jerry Richardson in that similar situation would have just taken his ball and gone home the way Tepper did. And then he had a similar deal. It didn't get nearly as far along or involve as much money and state funding as the Rock Hill deal, but they were going to redevelop an old Eastland Mall tract of land here in Charlotte. And they were going to put the Charlotte FC headquarters there. And that deal, they backed. Tepper backed out of that deal. So actually going through and honoring his portion of this deal, which isn't a lot compared to what the city of Charlotte's going to kick in, would be a good start. And then winning. I think winning cures a lot of the warts, and they've done very little of it to the tune of, what did I look this up the other day? I think they've won like 31% of their games is all since he became owner.
Yeah, it's been brutal to watch, and those things you describe, you in your more opinion piece on Monday described that as Charlotte having protection from being teppered, which I thought was absolutely fabulous. So well done, sir. That's a big time tip of the cap. But to be serious at the same time, it's real. I mean, you just discussed a lot of it, but to further Elijah's question to you, should Tepper be doing something else? I mean, he wants to put a winning product on the field, but are there things in the community? Is he going to kick in something that we don't know about? What else could he do to try to get back on the good side? Because there's very little trust, for sure.
No, for sure. And I thought it was interesting last night, before I answer your question, that there was a gentleman who was the head of the second, that there are supposed to be 11 council members. One person was absent. But the head of the economic committee of the Charlotte City Council, who very clearly was pro renovations and a big backer of this proposal, he even said that in his remarks last night that he was the gentleman I quoted that said there was a lot of mistrust of David Tepper on this committee. And frankly, the conversation was a lot more contentious than I thought it would be. I kind of expected to roll in there, and it was going to be kind of a rubber stamp deal, and maybe one person would vote against it. It ended up being 7-3. What can Tepper do to kind of get through that mistrust, both with politicians and when fans and everybody else? He does do and none of this ever gets covered as much as it should, but he and his wife, Nicole, do a good bit of charity in Charlotte. They did something recently with a food bank, and and that's good stuff. Unfortunately, a lot of folks that doesn't get received probably like it would if they were winning. And same thing with the players' charities. I mean, I remember Cam Newton when they were doing great here in 2013 through 15, and he would do his annual turkey drive or feeding kids at Thanksgiving. I mean, it was great. It was all smiles, but a lot of that stuff gets ignored, unfortunately, when you're not doing well. But Tepper, I do think having a little bit more of a hands-off role would benefit him. That kind of goes against every fiber in his body. So I don't know that he can do it, but I think that would be helpful as well.
Well, we saw Stephen Ross in Miami and Cam McNair in Houston start to step away, and the results speak for themselves in terms of getting better. Might that happen? We shall see. Last thing for you today, Elijah looked this up. The odds of the Panthers having a top 5 pick are better than 62%. You feel that's the way it's going to trend in 2024?
I do, and certainly down in that neighborhood. And I gotta say, and it's not like a defeatist attitude with the new staff, Dave Canales, and then on the GM side, Dan Morgan. But I do feel like that Dave Tepper has kind of told these guys, after sort of trying to solve everything in one off season for several years, going back to Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield and, Teddy Bridgewater, what was all these one-year stints. I do feel like they've taken a bit of a breath and said, look, we know this isn't going to get fixed overnight. And Canales is, even in his comments this spring during OTAs and minicamp, it was very much like, we just want to get better. We want to be competitive. We want to put a good product on the field. He said that a lot. That was a catchphrase. And I think it's a way of just kind of setting the bar low. And frankly, I think it's a smart move because you look at the roster, and are they better than last year? They are. I do think there are more weapons and more protection for Bryce Young in year 2. But they got to figure out if Bryce Young's the guy. I mean, there were not a lot of signs last year that to that being the case. However, as I mentioned, was it Bryce's fault? Was it the lack of weapons, which was real? We'll see. But I do get that there's definitely a different vibe over there this year about that they're not expecting to win 9 or 10 games. Like, this is going to be a slow climb. But 2 years from now, I think is when they're kind of shooting for. They have a lot of money next year for on the salary cap to spend in free agency. But Bryce holds the key, and they have to get the end of this year, and I think they will, and they'll either have an idea, okay, we did pick the right guy, or now what?
Good stuff as always. Glad you made it through the city council meeting, and at least you get to go on vacation this week. We'll holler at you here closer to the season. Always appreciate you, sir.
Likewise. You all have a great summer.
Thanks, man. That's our buddy Joe Person. Follow him at theathletic.com, and he is Joseph Person on Twitter. Elijah and I'll be right back. It's another hot one out there, kids, and it's time for you to call AAA Heating and Air. If your system's not too old, but it needs a little tune-up, 803-677-1500. If you don't know how old it is and you're ready for something new, more energy efficient, and it's going to keep you comfortable for a long time, you need to log on to callAAAtoday.com and get an instant quote on what a new system will cost you and your family. Just punch in a few things about your house, and the website will tell you about what it's going to cost. Then take advantage of what Roy and Dana Finley are doing for their customers. 12 months, no payments or interest in 2024, guaranteed financing options, 15-year parts and labor guarantee, $1,500 system buyback rebate. I mean, is there a better time to get a new HVAC system? I'm not so sure there is, especially when it's topping out right now at 98 degrees in the Midlands of South Carolina. Y'all need to stay cool with my good friends at AAA Heating and Air.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to, they're causing some issues here on the roadways in the Midlands. Most of these are going to be here in Richland County, including one on Spear Creek Church Road at US 1 and 2 Notch Road, one on Shop Road at Atlas Road, another one on Leesburg Road at Fairmont Drive, one on 77 southbound. That's going to be between Forest Drive, exit 12, and Fort Jackson Boulevard, exit 10. We also have one on Columbia Drive at Highway 555 and Faro Road. And lastly, we have an accident in Lexington County that's going to be over on I-26 westbound at Sunset Boulevard and exit 110.
Just talking to our buddy Joe Person on the Carolina Panther beat for The Athletic. Again, yesterday in Charlotte, last night, a more than 3-hour city council meeting concluded with the 7-3 vote that will give David Tepper $650 million in hospitality tax money to do a lot of fixing up around Bank of America Stadium. They'll be putting in all new seats, new sound system, ribbon board, scoreboard, outdoor party areas. I don't know what else. New bathrooms, new escalators. It's a lot of stuff.
And a roof to host Super Bowls.
Nope, that's not going to happen there, Elijah.
Oh,
That's one thing. We'll talk to Joe again soon enough, and some of the others that cover the Panthers. Listen, I remember when the folks in Atlanta wanted to take off the parachute and put a retractable roof over the Georgia Dome, because the Georgia Dome was a fine facility, and they all knew it was. And then you got into the cost of putting a retractable roof onto the Georgia Dome. And it was something like, at the time, like $600 million. And so everybody in Atlanta just got together and said, well, all right, a new place is like double that. But if we go ahead and build the new place now, then we've got a show place for longer, because it was coming anyway. And so they did. And believe me, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta is a show place.
It's gorgeous.
My goodness.
That place rules.
It's the best stadium I've ever been in. I hadn't been into all of them, all around, but I mean, it's the best one I've ever been into. And it's really not even close, dude.
Yeah.
It's really not even close. That said, again, we've talked about it, and this isn't to dish Charlotte at all, but Charlotte is not Atlanta. Atlanta is just a whole different animal when it comes to major sporting events. And Charlotte might like to get into that conversation from time to time, but it's not going to happen on a routine basis. And maybe they know that. And you made a great point this morning when you and I were talking about today's show. Nashville is going to get a dome. Mm-hmm. I don't know how long it's going to take. But because I've also been to Nissan, and I was like, dude, I've been to college stadiums.
It's a dump.
That are better.
Nissan Stadium's a dump. Not even going to full punches here.
It's all right. That's about as good as I could say. I was like, this is okay. It's okay.
Well, that's nicer than my opinion.
Sure. Yes. But Nashville, again, not dissing Charlotte, but once Nashville has a dome, then all bets are off around these parts. Again, you're not going to – Nashville won't compete directly with Atlanta per se. It'll just be in the rotation with Atlanta. Mm-hmm. But that would kick Charlotte out. For a Super Bowl, for a Final Four, for a major bowl game, they'll step up what the Music City Bowl is or something like that, right? Concerts. It's Nashville.
One of the fastest growing areas in the country.
But not just that, but it's already a major tourist destination.
Yeah,
it's
certainly
already got the hotel. I mean, Charlotte's got plenty of hotels. Nashville has more. Nashville is also more centrally located in the country. It's not that far from Charlotte, but you get the point. Nashville also, again, big airport like Charlotte. Mm-hmm. I was actually stunned at how big the Nashville airport was. I was expecting big. I didn't realize it. I was like, oh.
A lot of that's new. A lot of that's added on.
I was like, wow.
It ain't always been that way.
That's a big airport. So they've got everything. And Charlotte is just going to not necessarily get left behind, but, if you're going to build a dome, you're going to want things plural. Like these days, the NFL's been good about giving new stadiums a Super Bowl, right? Like Jacksonville, bless their heart. And that'll never happen again.
They got ass Super Bowl.
Well, and then, again, you knew it was bad, and I love Jacksonville. It's a fine town. But when they had to bring a cruise ship.
I haven't heard many people say that.
When they had to bring a cruise ship up the river so people could stay on it because they didn't have enough hotels, you knew you were in trouble, right?
I've heard that was just an absolute disaster.
It was not good. It was not good. Yeah, Jacksonville is. It's a nice, but Jacksonville's a place to live and work. It's not a place to visit. Charlotte's a place to live and work. You don't go on vacation to Charlotte. You want to go to Carowinds? Sure. You want to go to the Whitewater Center? Sure. Okay. Again, you going to go to a game? Yeah, but you're not going to Charlotte for a week. People go to Nashville for a week. Mm-hmm. Now, after a while, I don't know what you do. You can only go honky-tonking so many times and buy a new pair of boots.
No, they go to jail. Yeah, oftentimes they end up going to jail. There's a Twitter page called Nashville Scoop, and it's like 80% tourist. They go to jail. If you're there more than 5 days and you're honky-tonking for more than 5 days straight, brother, you will spend a night at the Davidson County Jail. You are going to. Promise.
Well, I don't wish that upon anyone either. So, Charlotte's not going to build the dome.
Jail.
But they'll enhance Bank of America. There's also talk that within the next 15 years, they'll begin discussion on building something new. It does beg the question, why don't you just go ahead and do it? But I think listen, Charlotte doesn't want to lose the team, and there's no guarantee for all the talk we have of moving, just move them. Well, who wants you? I mean, here's the irony. Like St. Louis has a dome now, but that dome's old.
Sat vacant for
You're not going. I mean, Oklahoma City is not ready for an NFL team. San Antonio is not going to get an NFL team because Jarrah won't let that happen. Where else are you really going? You're like Portland? Portland's not. I sure as hell don't think Portland, Oregon is going to build you a $2 billion football stadium. Nope. There's just really nowhere to go. So this was the best deal that Tepper could get in today's world. Toronto Panthers ain't walking through that door.
I'm sure the Argonauts would have something to say about that.
I don't think that, So
they play their own football.
What's interesting to me now, though, and you and I talked about this, and we won't dwell on it, but there are whispers that Major League Baseball is going to expand to get to a more round 32 and then have 4 divisions of 4 in each league. I've heard that Portland and Salt Lake City are on the agenda. I think Nashville will absolutely be one of the teams.
Oh, they've been pushing for that for years.
So I just don't know that Charlotte, but let's just say it was Charlotte and Portland or Charlotte and Nashville even. I mean, how much of this money would be left over if Charlotte needs a ballpark? Now, you could probably take what you have at Truist downtown and expand around it or up. I imagine they put some plans in there just in case. Easier said than done, probably. And sometimes as soon as you build those kind of places, the technology's outdated or the amenities aren't what you can, it's just, so I don't, this money now, I just think that Charlotte looks at this and goes, well, we got to keep this one. And let's just hope this dude also brings us a winner.
It just feels like it sells it short, too, because my thing is, if you're going to invest a lot in public money and you're going to undergo any type of project that, requires working on the stadium or anything, do something that's going to bring you in more money over the long term. Yes, while Charlotte might not be a tourist destination, the Super Bowl, wherever it's at, whether it's in Jacksonville, whether it's in Houston, whether it's in Los Angeles, whether it's in Jamestown, Tennessee, it's going to be the tourist destination. It does not matter where on the planet the Super Bowl is going to be, it's going to bring people. Mm-hmm. And you're going to make almost more money the one time you get to host a Super Bowl. That's going to make it all worth it. My thing is, what is being done is probably not going to be worth it and over the long term, right? So say you fork over all this money, public funds to build the stadium, do the add-on, but not to get the roof. So you're not getting a Super Bowl, you're not getting a men's Final Four. You're making the stadium nicer, and it will bring in some additional revenue, but maybe not what you think. And your chances of getting teppered will increase pretty mightily. no matter how many protections against the man you're going to put in there in this agreement, you can you got to be able to pull through a little bit on your end with what you end up producing with this project. I don't know if that's going to be enough.
I don't know. I'm with you. And look, do they get a Super Bowl out of this in an open air stadium? I mean, they put one in New York once, but that was different.
And they're never doing that again.
No, they'll never do that again. I mean, in Charlotte, North Carolina, in the first or second week of February, you might get lucky, and you might not.
And the NFL don't want to play that game anymore.
They don't like that anymore.
With rolling the dice on weather.
Speaking of football venues, EA Sports has ranked the hardest college football stadiums to win in based on the new video game criteria. We're going to tell you where Carolina is and who's number one coming up. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of our second hour coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Headlines of the day, including some Gamecock recruiting news for you. We'll have more on the College World Series, drive around the SEC, and it does look like there is smoke around that Jim Schlossnagle fire in Texas. So we'll see. We'll keep
monitoring.
Keep an eye on that one. EA Sports' new college football video game will be released in a few weeks' time. A lot of folks very excited. They have they've ranked the top 25 most difficult stadiums to play in, and they've based it on a lot of factors. It's the EA Sports dudes, and they've done this for the purposes of like your road environment and how you play your game
when you're playing the game.
Yeah, you know, all that kind
There's
of stuff.
purpose to it.
So we'll try to fly through this one here in the 4 minutes or so that we have left. Number 25, Davis Wade Stadium at Mississippi State, Cowbells.
Cowboys will be in the video game.
24, Albertsons Stadium in Boise. Don't know. Terry's been there.
We should ask Terry.
If it's cold, I suppose.
That field is blue.
Yeah. Razorback Stadium, 23. 22, Spartan Stadium in East Lansing, Michigan State. Number 21, Notre Dame Stadium. 21?
Yeah, that seems low.
I don't know. Again, I don't know all the different, they have their own version of the EBPI at EA. So
the EA BPI.
Yeah, I know. EA FPI. Number 20, Kinnick Stadium in Iowa. I know that place gets loud.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. They win a lot there.
Number 19, Darrell Royal Stadium in Austin. Interesting.
That is interesting. Maybe it lost its luster, I guess, when it's gone under some renovations, so the capacity's not the same.
And they'll tell you there's a lot of wine and cheesers there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who they are, but that's what they'll tell you.
Yeah.
Number 18, Rice Eccles Stadium in Salt Lake City, home of the Utes. It's become a hard place to win.
Yeah,
they're good.
And very aesthetically pleasing of a stadium.
Yeah, it's got a nice setting.
Yeah, beautiful backdrop.
Yeah. Number 17, Lane Stadium, Virginia Tech in Blacksburg.
Inner Sandman.
Number 16, the Big House in Ann Arbor.
It is a big house.
Number 15, Williams-Brice, top 15.
Above
Represent
the Big
Gamecocks.
House.
Yeah.
Take that, national champs.
Yeah. I was
Tougher
surprised by
video
that.
game, home environment.
It is hard to win at Williams-Brice, man.
That's true.
It gets crazy.
Yeah.
It definitely gets crazy. So there you go. Number 15. Way to go. Number 14, Jordan Hare in Auburn. Been there a couple times, and it does, brother. That place is tall. It gets loud.
Have yet to go.
Jordan Hare gets loud.
Not been. I can't speak.
Another place I've been is Neyland Stadium, number 13. Again, the size of a piece of paper is what you get to sit on, but they can fit a lot of folks in there.
They cram a lot of folks in one large stadium.
Again, if there's something bad that happens at Neyland Stadium, ain't nobody getting out, but hey.
And you can't hear.
At least you were there. Number 12, Death Valley Clemson. 12. It's loud there, too.
I'll experience it for the first time this year.
I've been there a few times. Number 11, Outson Stadium in Eugene, home of the Ducks. That's going to get louder this season, I believe. They're going to be real good. Number 10, the Swamp. Number 9, Doak Campbell in Tallahassee. Number 8, the Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium.
It's a mouthful.
That's a lot of words, but that's in Norman.
We can't shorten it.
Yeah, Carolina fans, many of you will go there later this year. Number 7, Camp Randall, great scene, and in Madison for the Badgers.
Jump around.
Number 6, Beaver Stadium at Penn State. State College, or say College Station, State College. Number 5, we're getting into the top 5 now, kids. Sanford Stadium in Athens, Georgia. Again, been there a few times, and yes, it can be difficult, mainly because Georgia just kicks butt.
Yeah,
most of the time.
The team that occupies that stadium is pretty good too.
Those
they
people
have lots to do with
those people can get ornery.
Well, you can get barked at by a human, not even a dog, by a human pretending to be a dog.
Yeah, they get their way, and now I've got one in my family. So there's that.
Has she barked at you yet? She hasn't gotten full. She hasn't gotten full Sanford
Stadium.
Stadium
Near me. Let's put it that way. Number 4, Ohio Stadium, the Horseshoe, Ohio State. Number 3, Death Valley, Baton Rouge. Number 2, Bryant Denny in Tuscaloosa. And number 1, according to EA Sports, most difficult place to play in college football is Kyle Field in College Station, Texas.
Unless you're Appalachian State. Then it ain't.
So I would have thought LSU would have been number 1.
Yeah, LSU at night specifically. If we're wanting to get real specific here, LSU under the lights.
But I don't. Again,
Rarely
y'all
loses.
should see it. Listen, so many people have tweeted out about this today. I mean, Ross Dellinger, Andy Staple, all the big name guys, and EA's got a thing out, and I mean, your local people have done. Matt Conley had a piece on it. It's a video game, man. It's a video game.
Which means when I play Texas A&M on said video game and I kick their ass at Kyle Field, I want to feel more accomplished.
But, I mean, I saw one guy tweet out, like, I can't believe that, insert your favorite school here, was where they were, but my rival, was here. And, like, that's kind of the feeling today.
It's formulaic.
Enjoy the game when it comes out, and then enjoy the real football season. Maybe your team will win. Hour 3 coming up.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with only 2 accidents, thankfully, to report to you this afternoon, as of right now, that are causing some issues here in the Midlands. Both are going to be in Richland County. We have one on Reimer Pond Road at Hard Scrabble Road. That one's just been reported within the last few minutes or so. And we have another minor traffic backup over on Spear Creek Church Road at US 1 in Two Notch Road.
It is 5 o'clock news time on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back in. Also, the final hour of the postgame show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Appreciate you being with us. Let's jump right into it. Last night, Tennessee wins its first ever College World Series championship. They took Game 3, 6-5. A&M made a late push to make this a one-run game, but the Vols pitching really was just too much for the Aggies throughout the course of the ball game. So after dropping Game 1 Saturday night, Tennessee comes back to win the last two. Coach Tony Vitello sharing a nice moment with his dad, who was a longtime high school coach in the St. Louis area, jumping into the stands like he was at a 90s rock concert.
He should have crowd surfed.
Yeah. Well,
Shirt definitely should not have stayed on.
yeah. And Peyton Manning was down on the field, hogging the spotlight. Josh Heupel was there. Rick Barnes was there.
They showed out.
Yeah. Yeah, Peyton, and ESPN's going to be like, Peyton, you got to come to this. All right, I'll be there. Rick Barnes looked really hot, but apparently it's like 98 degrees in Omaha yesterday.
Yeah, apparently on-field temperature like broke 100.
Over 100.
Yeah.
But the first number one national seed to win the College World Series since the Miami Hurricanes did it in 1999. That's how long it's been since the number one seed coming into the tourney actually ended up winning the thing. So congratulations to Tennessee. They become the fifth consecutive champion from the Southeastern Conference, second consecutive SEC versus SEC title series, and not just the fifth consecutive SEC school to win it, but the fifth different SEC school in those 5 years to win the national title. That's crazy.
And it could have easily been 6 if it weren't for
We were talking
Arkansas
about that with Mitch.
dropping that pop fly against Oregon
They showed
State.
that highlight the other day, and it is brutal. It is brutal because it was right there. Mm-hmm. Now it's one of those. It's hard. It's not like, oh my gosh. It is one of those weird, tricky ones. But anyway, didn't happen for Coach Dave Van Horn. Speaking of Dave Van Horn, Tony Vitello, high praise for his former boss last night, and talking about all the things that he learned at Arkansas that he was able to apply in Knoxville. Now the story immediately shifts to the University of Texas baseball search. We talked about this a lot yesterday. For those of you who were with us, it was not at all coincidental or accidental that University of Texas announced that its baseball coach had been fired on the morning of the deciding game of the championship series. It was done, I think, with great effect to not necessarily steal the spotlight, but to share in the spotlight on college baseball's biggest day. And now there are multiple reports, including one, and I don't have it pulled up, so I'll just have to paraphrase it here, but Brent Zwerneman of the Houston Chronicle has followed A&M for a couple of decades. I liken him, and I'm quite serious, to our good friend David Cloninger here in Columbia. Been doing it a while, very well connected. And Brent says that a decision could come tonight, that there is no doubt that Texas is chasing him. And he help me out, Elijah. I think he said, Aggie brass basically trying to convince him to stay. Mm-hmm. So in other words, it sounds like one foot's out the door.
Sounds like he's been convinced.
Yeah. Now, I saw something else that was a reply to that. Now, this was just from a fan. I looked at the guy's Twitter feed. It was just a fan, but he made a good point. Chris Del Conte was the AD for a while at TCU when Jim Schlossnagle was there, and Schloss went to 5 World Series. He did not get hired by Trev Alberts, who is the new AD at A&M. So there's a history of not only knowing the boss, but having had a great relationship with the boss. You're going to make a lot of money no matter what. Jim Schlossnagle and Tony Vitello may become, in a matter of days, the 2 highest paid coaches in college baseball. And at their age and with their track record, Schloss is 53, Tony's 45, that would make a lot of sense. And again, I know Tim Corbin has his 2 titles, and Vandy may want to give Tim Corbin a raise. Florida got back to the World Series. Again, I think that's Sully's 9th time at the World Series. He may get a raise. You made a good point. We were talking to Mitch. I think a lot of dudes are about to get a raise because that's where college baseball is.
Market's going to break wide open.
Yeah, and we talked about it even here. I mean, Ray Tanner just doubled the coaching budget at South Carolina, but what that does is bring you back to
competitiveness.
In the SEC. I mean, I think Carolina was 11th or 12th. I don't know. Or Mark was 11th or 12th.
You weren't making $1 million.
No,
but
I think he made $725.
Almost everyone will be making $1 million now.
So yeah. You're getting ready to see this thing blow up in a conference where it not trying to use the slogan, but it does matter. It doesn't matter in every conference, but it does across the Sun Belt. And I don't mean the Sun Belt Conference, but I mean the ACC. Yeah, and it does matter in the Sun Belt. Don't get me wrong, but will the ACC keep up? What about Brian O'Connor? I mean, he's not being talked about.
Dark horse.
Might he be somebody? I don't know. Again, we were talking about the Johnsons, Jay Johnson, LSU, Skip Johnson, Oklahoma, Wes Johnson, Georgia, all could be candidates. But if this is if what Brent is putting out, then again, there are reasons to, he's not going to put something out without having some. That doesn't mean it's a guarantee and that it's, etched in iron. But, it's one of those things where you're like, all right, he might be onto something here.
I mean, Kendall Rogers tweets about 6 minutes ago, maybe, and there's some interesting word choice here. He's not breaking news, but there's some interesting word choice here. He says, one more thing. If this gets past the finish line, a ton of credit goes to Chris Del Conte, Schlossnagel's best friend, and then proceeds to say, would be a heck of a coup. There are at least 2 elite coaches who would love to have the UT-A&M jobs. Just an all-time fascinating situation. He did refer to Jim Schlossnagel and Chris Del Conte as being not just friends, close friends. He says best friend. And if my best friend gave me a call to say, hey, you want to coach for me again at a place where I can maybe give you more money at a crown jewel job of the sport, help bring us back to prominence.
That's tough to say no to.
That's hard to say no to.
Yeah. And again, Brent Zwerneman on his Twitter feed, Brent Zwerneman, A&M beat writer, Houston Chronicle, Aggie brass trying to convince him to stay. It
sounds like they're in the defensive.
Yeah. And maybe you just don't worry about it. Maybe you go get Skip Johnson from Oklahoma or Wes Johnson from Georgia.
One of the many Johnsons.
Yes. Or maybe you call Brian O'Connor. And then that can make the people, listen, if Schloss is the guy in Austin, that makes a lot of the celebrations in Knoxville get a whole lot better this week.
Mm-hmm. Then they never end.
Yeah.
It goes into next year. What happens next year is simply not going to matter.
They can go for a while.
Yeah.
They can go for a while. We'll have more on that coming up for you in just a little bit. Let's continue with our headlines of the day. Last night in Charlotte, if you didn't hear, the city council voted 7-3 to okay more than $800 million in renovations to Bank of America Stadium. $650 million will come from hospitality taxes from the city of Charlotte. David Tepper will pay the remaining $150 million up front. So I don't know if they've opened up a fund that he'll just deposit $150 million into, but that's what it sounds like. According to the story, Tepper has already invested more than $117 million in upgrades and has agreed to another estimated $421 million in potential overages for capital improvements over the term of the deal. Again, if you've already spent $117 million and this is supposed to count towards the total amount that he's paid, what's the point? I mean, if you're just going to go back and I just painted all this, put new carpet in. Yeah, well, we're ripping it all out and painting it a new color. All right, well, I spent that money, so that counts. I'm not sure really why that matters. And what's he spent it on? I mean, I've been up there the last couple of years. It's a fine place.
See, I'll be planning on a couple trips there this year.
I like to,
and I'll be able to compare it to Nissan Stadium, which is below the bar.
Oh well, I've not been to an actual sporting event at Nissan, but I have been inside and around Nissan.
You've seen enough,
and I will tell you, you
have seen enough.
Yeah. Charlotte is a lot nicer.
Okay,
yeah,
so it at least meets the bar.
But Charlotte ain't anywhere close to Atlanta, which is what Charlotte likes to compare itself to.
Yeah, that Atlanta stadium.
Yeah. Mercedes-Benz Stadium ain't walking through that door.
Mm-mm. It's happy where it is.
Yeah,
and they're happy where it is.
It's doing fine. So that happened last night. The vote, again, 7-3. David Tepper with a release. He was not there, by the way. We asked Joe Person earlier about that. He was not there last night.
Guy's great at endearing himself to the community.
Quote, for nearly 30 years, Charlotte has been the home of the Carolina Panthers, and more recently, Charlotte FC. We are proud to be in the Carolinas and look forward to delivering a venue that meets the needs of our community, players, and fans for years to come. First off, you should have been there. And B, how often is he actually even in Charlotte?
That's another good question.
You know,
I'd be willing to bet
30 days a year?
game days.
Yeah.
And they're not all.
Maybe he gets there.
So.
Yeah, let's say he gets there on Saturday for a home game. Comes out to a couple of days of mini camp.
So we're talking like 12 days a year.
Waves his hat. Hi, I'm Dave. Got a little name tag. Owner.
I know you guys don't think I exist. I'm not around here often.
Owner. There were some things about trust issues and other things that have come up with David Tepper over the years that were mentioned last night, but Joe Person said otherwise it moved on slowly, and the result was what they expected. So
only a little contentious.
Yeah. So $650 million from the city, $150 million from David Tepper, plus potential
Fair
overages.
deal.
Listen, overages are going to happen. I mean, having renovated my home with my wife a few years ago, yeah, just whatever it is, add 20% in money and time, and then you've got your number, give or take.
A real number.
Yes, that's your number. Yeah, just add 20%. They tell you whatever date it's going to be, based on how long it's going to take, add 20%. Whatever it's going to cost, add 20%, and you'll be in good shape. Atlanta Braves fell last night to the St. Louis Cardinals. The Braves now 8 back. They had cut it to 6. Now it's back down to 8, but the Braves are favored in St. Louis tonight. Ronaldo Lopez having a heck of a year. He goes for Atlanta. He is 5-2 with a 1.57. Kyle Gibson will go for St. Louis. He's also 5-2, but with a 3.44, 7:45 first pitch from Busch Stadium in St. Louis. And finally, the Big East is in final negotiations with Fox and Turner and CBS to be, or excuse me, NBC to have their new television package that will start after the 25 season. CBS is bowing out of Big East basketball. According to the Sports Business Journal, the financial terms are being finalized, but it will be a significant rights fee increase. They don't have big-time football teams to worry about. Some of their schools do play football, but either at the D2 or D3 level. So maybe Villanova has the biggest football program in the Big East. They play AA football?
They
FCS football?
They're FCS football.
Yeah.
They did produce, a Pro Bowl or All-Pro running back once.
Yeah, and Howie Long went there a long time ago. So there was that.
Totally forgot about that.
There you go. But Big East is also getting in on the money. So
Yeah. UConn plays. Actually, just kidding. UConn plays FBS football. Allegedly.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I forgot about them.
Dan Orlovsky ain't walking through that door.
No. Dan Orlovsky's tall, man.
He is. He's
Dang.
a tall dude. He's like, what, 6'6"?
Yeah, he's tall. I didn't realize that.
He could probably play on the basketball team, too.
He's buddies with our good friend Langston Moore. They played on the Detroit Lions together.
They had some pretty good bonding.
Yeah, they both remember it.
Owner smoking in the locker room.
How fondly. Yes, what a great story.
Like, we can
Not
talk about a
sweet
lot
Mrs.
of
Ford.
bad.
I think it's Mrs. Ford's son, right?
I think that's,
Yeah, Mrs. Ford's son, who is also probably, an AARP member. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, but just ripping lung darts in the locker room where your team's trying to
Your
win
team's
football
trying.
games. That's, that maybe just goes to show exactly the football acumen of some of the people that own NFL franchises.
We'll come back on the other side. By the way, that is our integrated media headlines of the day. I love integrated media. 803-948-8327. Man, I had integrated media rocking last night at the house trying to watch 3 events at once, but it was working, baby.
Perfect night for it.
That's what I've got integrated media for. When you want a sports bar type setup in your house, you know who can do it for you? Integrated media. 803-948-8327 for all your home entertainment, home security needs. They'll get it done. Check them out. Integrated Media. All right. Come back on the other side. The latest on the Schlossnagle search, or the Texas search, is Schloss going to do it, and Gamecock baseball and football recruiting news. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Welcome back in. I don't know what much about this song. It's Beck. It's Beck.
Such a good song.
But it's like the old Scooby-Doo when they start like dancing by the beach, like before the bad guy comes.
It has early pre-Pet Sounds Beach Boys vibes to it.
You know, like Beck is pretty cool, man. He can do things with music and technology.
Great musician.
Yeah. I guess this is breaking news of sorts.
Yeah, I guess so. This was, tweeted within the hour. Johnny Bench,
Johnny
former,
Bench.
The Johnny Bench, Cincinnati Reds legend. Tweets,
Wait, he was the guy that did the baseball bunch. He was a ball player too. I just thought he did that TV show on Saturdays.
Crazy enough, yeah, he very versatile.
Wow,
very versatile. This coming from his Twitter account and verified because Derek Scott follows it. And there's over almost 94,000 followers. Johnny Bench tweets the 2024 Johnny Bench Awards top NCAA baseball catcher, Cole Messina.
Hey, all right.
So Cole Messina getting recognized for a hell of a year.
He did.
And I think it's been widely known. He's, or at least widely the consensus that he is the best catcher in college baseball. I think his week in Hoover kind of solidified that a little bit because he definitely carried him.
Yeah, I don't know where he'll go in the draft. We've talked to a bunch of people already that just do not. I know that he can come back to South Carolina. He can. Again, might have a decision to make. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. A lot of it's just where he's going to get picked.
Where he gets picked and what somebody wants to pay him. Again, the slot values are there as guidelines, not hard and fast rules. So we'll see. Congratulations, Cole. It's a big deal. Johnny Bench is the greatest catcher of all time. Sorry to the Yogi Berra fans out there. And really, I think it's Johnny Bench, Yogi Berra, and then there's a collection of really good catchers. But I don't think there's ever been a better catcher than Johnny Bench.
No.
And especially at doing all of it. I mean, amazing hitter, but could work a staff on a great team with a demanding manager and a bunch of good pitchers.
Yeah, he's up there. I put him in that class.
Yeah. There have been some good ones.
Buster Posey I'd put up there as well.
Yeah, yes. And
in terms of he doesn't get talked about as being one of the greatest catchers of all time, but he caught multiple no-hitters in perfect games. Was elite in college. Yeah. Was the best player in college baseball.
He was the best player in college baseball when he played, yes.
And by a mile.
Yes.
And won 3 World Series with San Francisco.
I was going to say,
as the best player.
Yeah, he's a winner.
I don't know if he's ever been talked about as being in that class with Johnny Bench, but I'd put him there.
That's fair. He hasn't. I will tell you, as somebody who, he hasn't.
But he should be, yes.
And I mean, like Jorge Posada was really good, and he won a bunch with the Yankees. Piazza was a great hitter. Mm-hmm. He wasn't a great catcher.
Not the way the other guys are that we've put in this group.
Yeah. Again, that's what I'm saying. Like Johnny Bench, Yogi Berra, like those dudes, they were great catchers and like team leaders. The catcher is such a different position in that sport.
Arguably the most cerebral position.
Well, I just look, all I did was pitch high school, but without Hollis Rogers for 3 years, I don't know what I would have done. Mm-hmm. Like
it's a different relationship.
Having him, whether he came out to yell at me, whether he gave me an attaboy, then yelled at me again. I mean, I loved my coaches, but without Hollis, I don't know what I would have done, right? And I think a lot of pitchers feel that way. Like
catchers are the extension of the coach.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm glad we were in the same grade and got to do it for 3 years, at our level. But like without him, because he just knew what to tell you, and not just me, all of our pitchers. I mean, he was great. So yeah, I get it. But congratulations, Cole. Good stuff. Speaking of baseball, South Carolina has picked up. This is an interesting way to pick a guy up.
Those guys are heavy. That's tough.
Yeah. Ashton Crowther is going to come to South Carolina. He played at Lexington High School, but then he went to Clemson. Played up there for a couple of seasons. 51 games for the Tigers overall. 240 hitter, a homer, 15 RBI, 96 career at-bats. Can play all 3 outfield positions. He is currently with Cotuit in the Cape Cod League. And our buddy Jack Veltri says through 4 games in the Cape, he's hitting .353 with a homer, 5 driven in, and 6 hits in 17 at-bats. When he played for the Wildcats, he was the number 100 outfielder in the nation, the number 11 player in South Carolina, and the number 3 rated outfielder before choosing to go to Clemson for a couple of years. Ashton Crowther will be coming back home, if you will, to play for South Carolina. And speaking of the Upstate and the Gamecocks, this was a pretty big deal from what I understand, and we'll talk with, I'm sure Chris and Wes will have more on this. Cutter Woods is a quarterback at Westside High School in Anderson. He had been committed to Wake Forest, but has flipped that commitment and will now play at South Carolina. He's a 2025 class. He originally had committed back in April to the Deacs and had offers. It's a decent list. I mean, Auburn, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech. So, Power 5, not the, Auburn. I mean, having Auburn come after
SEC.
you. Yeah.
They use quarterbacks.
According to what Gamecock Central says, and this is from Wes, South Carolina and Dowell Loggins kept a close eye on him and continued to watch him evaluate, and offered him just a few days after a 7-on-7 camp, and he has decided that he wants to be a Gamecock. Cutter Woods, 6'2", 195-pounder, Westside High School, Anderson, South Carolina. So there you go.
Gotta be a crowded QB room.
Yeah, that's what you want. I mean, and Shane loves that. Dowell loves that. You want genuine competition there. As we talked about, you and I were talking about this the other day, I think out at Old Mill. At certain spots, I think we were talking about the kid that was the edge rusher that was coming in. You want, like, quality, immediate depth that you can utilize there. When it comes to your quarterback room, you want depth, but you want it to be more, I think the word I used, I don't know if football people use this or not, but I call it systemic depth, where you can, all right, you're the guy now, you're learning under him, and then you're going to play, and then you're going to play, and the transfer portal.
What Georgia's got.
Yeah.
You look at their 3 deep. Their projected 3 deep roster, it's the first 2 at each position, productive players.
Right.
The third one's like the number 1 at his position.
Well, and
that's a true freshman.
Help me out. Vandegrift is the kid that's in Kentucky now, Brock Vandegrift. Yeah. I mean, they had some good ones, and you can't keep them all.
Only one quarterback can play at a time.
Yeah, you can't. And
Falcons can learn that lesson the hard way.
Yeah. I did see that Michael Penix signed his deal.
He did.
That's what did he get? That's a lot of money. I forget how much. A lot.
Not as much as Kirk Cousins has, though.
No, I don't. If you know in advance what you're doing, and maybe you should or should, I don't know. Like, who like one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league now is Jordan Love. I mean, the Packers knew what they were doing, man. And I mean, it's like, hey, Aaron, you were the same guy.
Yeah.
Right. At one point, Aaron was that guy. Brett didn't really like it, but it worked.
Same ordeal. He didn't have to go in there and play early and go through some of the same public growing pains that other quarterbacks do.
Sure. Come back on the other side of the break. We'll get our drive around the SEC, the latest on what's going on around the Texas baseball search. Might we be seeing a guy go from the rival to the rival? Could be. You're listening to the Postgame Show. I just mentioned a little while ago that I had, things going on at once last night between College World Series, Stanley Cup Game 7, Copa America with Brazil getting drawn by Costa Rica, all because of integrated media. I can do all of it at once. I've said before, if you go to a sports bar and you say, can I have, if you can afford to have like 50 TVs put in your house, they'll do it for you, I promise. But what if you just wanted something kind of cool for your own man cave or frog or wherever, family room? Like a couple of TVs to always watch what you want at the same time, even listen to them at the same time, but do it well. Integrated Media is ready to help you out. And with football season right around the corner, now is a great time to call Integrated Media and get them in to make your home theater the one you have always dreamed of. 803-948-8327. One room, whole house, outdoors. Wi-Fi that works everywhere. There is truly nobody better to get it done in your home than Integrated Media.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. A few accidents to get to you here in the Midlands that are causing some delays on the roadways. We'll start here in Richland County. An accident on Spear Creek Church Road at US 1 and 2 Notch Roads causing some issues. Got another one on Reimer Pond Road at Hard Scrabble Road, causing some minor traffic backup. Traffic lights aren't working, so caution whenever driving by North Royal Tower Drive at Woodrow Street. So traffic moving pretty slowly because of the traffic lights. We also have an accident in Lexington County on I-20 eastbound between US 378 and exit 61 near the Bush River Road exit 63. And we have an accident on 20 eastbound at Spears Creek Church Road near exit 82.
It is Drive Around the SEC time on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. And again, last night, Tennessee becoming the fifth consecutive Southeastern Conference team to win the College World Series. Fifth different team in that span. Second year in a row that it was an all-SEC final. Last year, it was LSU over Florida. This year, Tennessee over A&M. You got Vandy, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State winning. And going in reverse order, if I'm correct, right? In that time span? Vandy, State, Ole Miss, LSU,
Tennessee.
I knew I'd get it right eventually. Now the attention immediately shifts to the Texas Longhorns of the SEC as of...
Well, officially here in like a week.
Next week. Next...
5 days.
Monday, right? Monday.
Yeah, I believe so.
Welcome aboard, Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah.
It's still weird, I know. It's weird.
Unnatural.
Well, yeah, but it's not as unnatural as...
SMU and Cal and Stanford being in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Yeah.
Yes, you'd be correct. That's disgusting.
So...
Vile.
Let me... and I know Elijah just alluded to this, but I'm going to give you some more here. Brent Swerneman, first off, I'm going to read Brent's tweet from about an hour ago. Brent Swerneman is a longtime Aggie beat writer for the Houston Chronicle. I'm serious when I liken him to our good friend David Cloninger. So for those of you who know what David does and how well connected he is, Brent's tweet reads as follows. Insiders say Texas A&M's Jim Schlossnagle has a decision to make between staying at A&M or heading to rival Texas, a decision likely by Tuesday night. Aggies brass trying to convince him to stay. That's the tweet, and it's accompanied by a quick report. Kendall Rogers then took Brent's tweet and added his own quote, saying, "This will be fascinating to watch play out. The Horns would owe A&M around $3 million in a buyout, plus whatever Schloss's salary would be at Texas. Schloss camp has been adamant, no chance of movement unless the new ballpark project was botched. It was not, but situations can 100% change, however." That's Kendall Rogers of D1 Baseball, who is based in Texas. Again, I saw earlier as well, and you put out another one that Kendall had, that Jim Schlossnagle and Chris Del Conte, the AD at Texas, consider each other best friends.
Yep, he used the word best friend.
Friends. They were together at TCU when they went to multiple College World Series. Jim Schlossnagle was not hired by the current AD at A&M. That's Trev Alberts, who came down just recently from Nebraska. Ross Bjork leaving A&M to become the AD at Ohio State. Look, a ballpark project, listen, nothing's going to get botched money-wise at either of those schools, Texas or at Texas A&M. Just not. unless you wanted to build, like something that was 3 times as big as Yankee Stadium just because you could. Right? But you're not doing
Oil
that
money.
either. I mean, you're not doing that. I've never been to Bluebell Park, but I can still think. I remember Tommy telling me when they first built it, he was like, "Oh my gosh, what a palace!" And I've heard Derek say that, and others that have been there. Like, oh, it's a great ballpark. So I mean, are they
Aesthetically pleasing?
Are they enhancing it? I don't know. And Tommy did also. I remember him saying, there's all the Bluebell you could eat.
Best part.
So I don't know what that means. The ballpark project.
He's privy to it.
Yeah, I mean, you got something going on out there, but again, things change. Yes, circumstances do change.
Your best friend calling you.
Now, you had an interesting one from another Houston Chronicle guy, right?
That's right. Long-time Houston Chronicle. Well, he was the Texans beat reporter for a long time. He's covered the NFL forever, but I believe he's a Baylor grad. He's not an A&M grad. I'm trying to pull it up right here. He does spam retweet, so I'm stalling as I try to find the tweet where he definitely goes scorched earth on Schlossnagle if this were to end up being true. And I think he actually might have deleted it. It's not on here anymore.
Okay, well, it was John McClain, not the diehard John McClain, but longtime writer John McClain. But he basically, and look, I was probably the fan in him coming out saying that Schloss would have no credibility after last night's.
He'd be labeled a liar. He said he'd be lose all credibility, would be labeled a liar. And
without getting into it, last night in post game, and I think it was a guy from Texags.
Mm-hmm. That asked, yeah.
And said, hey, what about that? You got the let's hear what Schloss had to say
about your future in Aggie land.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty selfish of you to ask me that question, to be honest with you. But I left my family to be the coach at Texas A&M. I took the job at Texas A&M to never take another job again, and that hasn't changed in my mind. And that's unfair to talk about something like that. That'd be like you asking Montgomery if he's going to sign in the draft. But I understand you got to ask the question. But I gave up a big part of my life to come take this job, and I've poured every ounce of my soul in this job, and I've given this job every single ounce I can possibly give it. So write that.
Ooh.
Coach, thank you very much.
Look, there's
not defensive at all.
There's frustration in losing a one-run game. As I said earlier, I know there are a lot of people that have it out for why does the media do that? It's not the media. That guy chose to ask that question, and in today's world, those questions get asked because the news is there. Texas did what it did. Now you can blame whomever you want to blame. Texas did what it did on purpose, as we talked about yesterday and again today. Chris Del Conte and the brass in the Texas Sports Information Department didn't go, oh, there's a game tonight?
They're well aware.
Wow, we didn't know that. Oh, oops, sorry. I can't unsend. Oh, it's already out there. No, that's not. They knew exactly what they were doing. If Schloss wants to say it's selfish, okay. He doesn't say I'm not leaving.
There was no denial. There was a lot of grandstanding.
Yeah,
but no denial.
So I got a hunch again. If Chris listen, if this is your best friend, you probably knew 2 or 3 weeks ago that his guy was going to get let go.
If he's your best friend, you probably talk on a pretty frequent basis.
Right. I mean, you might not be able to talk as much during the season, especially if you're in the playoffs. But so I don't know. But the more I've learned today, the more I've certainly shifted my attention from Tony Vitello and straight on to Jim Schlossnagle. Doesn't mean they'll get him.
But there's smoke.
Yeah. And I do think both these guys are going to become the top paid coaches in college baseball, at least 2 of the top 4 or 5. But they would deserve it.
Certainly.
Vitello especially. Tony Vitello. I will be surprised if Tony Vitello is not the highest paid coach in baseball by this time next week.
It might even happen as soon as
Well, I
tomorrow.
told you by Friday.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if an announcement is made tomorrow.
But I'll give them a few days to get home and catch their breath and celebrate and, go take a parade around the Sun Sphere and wherever else they want to go down in the old town.
Big old ugly disco ball.
Hey, man, listen, when I was 11 years old and the World's Fair was in that downtown.
Oh, I bet it was kicking.
Dude.
My mom tells me the same thing.
We had I was there. I was at the World's Fair for 3 days. We had a blast. It was cool. I didn't know anything about Knoxville. It was almost like at Epcot or something.
I bet that was kind of fun. I've heard stories of how fun it was.
It was cool.
I've heard plenty of stories.
Again, I was 11. It was cool. I mean, you're like, this is, and you could go in and World's Fair, man. I wish we had more World's Fair. That's why we have Epcot.
Where it's the World's Fair all the time.
Just go to Epcot. That's why I love Epcot so much, I guess, because of my. And the thing is, I went to Epcot for the first time when it opened just a few months later. So I was like, oh, my God, like, what am I? This is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
You had more World's Fair
Technology
that year.
everywhere. Yeah, it was great. But anyway, so they'll have the parade around the Sun Sphere and, at Lindsey Nelson. Vitello Field at Lindsey Nelson Stadium.
The statue's actually already made.
Right, it's out there. But the thing is, they can't use that one.
You'll never pay for.
Well, it was going to be
again.
Tony flipping everybody off, but they can't use that one anymore. So they'll put like a glove on his hand. Right.
Like those little sliding.
Actually, he never flipped
mittens.
anybody off. It was his players that were flipping people off. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the Drew Gilbert one will come by later.
It'll be he'll just be screaming at people, but we'll keep an eye on it. But a lot of smoke with Jim Schlossnagle leaving A&M for Texas. Not done yet.
Is there precedent for that? Do we have what's the closest thing of a coach leaving for the rival? I know we can get close.
Yeah, I can't think of one immediately. You and I talked about Patino.
There was a buffer.
But he was in Boston in between.
Yeah.
But again, like Monty Lee doesn't count.
Because there were also years in between, and he was fired from. One of the jobs.
There probably is somewhere, but at this kind of level, I can't think of one.
I won't try.
That's the drive around the SEC, brought to you by Herndon Chevy. Save $20,000 on new Silverados. Together, let's drive. If you didn't hear it earlier, we'll give you the hardest places to win in college football based on EA Sports coming up. 11 minutes in front of 6 o'clock on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of the postgame show. I've not been able to see it yet, but apparently John Blau of the Post and Courier has put out a piece that Clemson fans are actually very upset about their ranking in this particular. Y'all, it's a video game.
A bleeping video game.
It's a video game. Third time. It's a video game. And even if it was a ranking of somebody, who cares?
It's fun discussion. I like to look at it, and I can say, "Oh, I agree with that," or "I don't agree with that." But it's not. It's not soiling my day.
God,
it's not.
I'll read it later. We can talk about it tomorrow if I think it's worth my time, but I don't know that it's going to be. But apparently, the school has also said something about it. Clemson is ranked number 12. 12. Where should you be?
I don't know if it's that far. Yeah, if it's that far off.
Every time something like this happens to Clemson, it's disrespect.
Little old Clemson.
Take it easy, man. It ain't that big a deal. Number 25 is Davis Wade Stadium, Mississippi State. This, by the way, if you just tuned in, hi, welcome back in. Jay, Elijah. EA Sports' new college football video game comes out in a few weeks. They've been teasing all kinds of stuff about it and how cool it looks and all the things you can do. And part of it, and those of you who remember playing the game back in the day, part of it, the reality of what EA Sports does, it's in the game, as they make it harder to win on the road. And that's certainly one of the great things about college football is that how hard it is to win on the road.
Camera will start shaking on third down. Oh, that type of stuff.
So today they put out their top 25 list of the most difficult places to win in college football for the road team. Or it just says toughest places to play, but they mean for the road team. Again, I'll try to go through this quickly, and then we'll comment. Davis Wade Stadium in Starkville, 25. Number 24, Albertson Stadium, Boise. 23, Razorback Stadium in Fayetteville. 22, Spartan Stadium, East Lansing, Michigan State. 21, Notre Dame Stadium. 20, Kinnick Stadium, Iowa Hawkeyes. Number 19, Darrell Royal Stadium, Austin. 18, Rice-Eccles Stadium, Salt Lake City, home of the Utes. 17, Lane Stadium, Virginia Tech. 16, the Big House in Ann Arbor. 15, Williams-Brice. 14, Jordan-Hare. 13, Neyland Stadium. 12, Death Valley, Clemson. 11, Outson Stadium in Eugene. 10, The Swamp. 9, Doak Campbell in Tallahassee. 8, Oklahoma, because I'm not going to list the whole name again.
They'll take the rest of the show.
7, Camp Randall Stadium in Madison. 6, Beaver Stadium, State College, Penn State. Number 5, Sanford Stadium, Between the Hedges. 4, Ohio Stadium in Columbus. 3, Death Valley, Baton Rouge. 2, Bryant-Denny. And number 1 on the list is Kyle Field at Texas A&M. The schools ahead of Carolina and Clemson are both in the top 15. Jordan-Hare, yeah. Neyland, yeah. And then Clemson ahead of Carolina. All those are ahead of Carolina. I'm fine with that. And Williams-Brice is a hard place to win, man.
Mm-hmm.
If Carolina could consistently put a better football product out there, it'd be that much more difficult. But that stretch when they were really good, it was hard to win there. It's loud.
Yeah, certainly. It definitely gets loud. It's an awesome environment.
Clemson, okay, Oregon, Florida, Florida State, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Penn State, Georgia, Ohio State, LSU, Alabama, A&M. I got zero. A&M is the only one I'm going to have a beef with. And how A&M is number 1, I don't know what algorithm or any other
I'd like an explanation.
Things they used. That seems to be most people's beef here. Is not so much the schools that are in the top 25, maybe some of the ranking. I've not been to A&M, so I don't know. I would have thought LSU and Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State, yeah. I would have figured Michigan was a little higher, considering how many people it holds.
Third largest city in Michigan on game day.
Yeah. But, Clemson at 12, that's about right.
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
That's about right. You mean to bump you to 11 and move A&M behind you? Okay, then you're 11.
You want to swap with Doak Campbell and Florida State?
I don't know. It's just nice. And again, it's a video game.
Yeah, I don't think that they're that egregiously off at all.
If they didn't put you on the list, sure.
Yeah, I'd move maybe Florida State out of the top 10.
have you behind Syracuse, you got a problem. Vanderbilt ahead of Clemson? Okay, then Dabo can get mad about something.
Yes, that's genuine disrespect. Yeah. That's trolling.
Yeah.
The same.
But otherwise, I think most of these pretty good. Have fun playing the video game.
So excited.
And if you want, to any of these schools who have a beef, if your real football team is better at football, then it'll be even harder for the other guy to win in your place.
They always adjust those rankings during the season.
Guaranteed. Good stuff today. Thanks to Mitch Light. Thanks to Joe Person for joining us. Good stuff as always from you guys. We'll do it again tomorrow. See ya.
Look, places like Williams-Brice Stadium, Neyland Stadium, Kyle Field are all tough places to play, but a place that is not tough to go to and to help achieve your goals and to be able to get along in a much more friendly environment, my friends at Columbia Secret for Weight Loss. Look, my weight loss goal, different than a lot of other people's. It wasn't expansive. I wasn't trying to lose a ton of weight, but I had a very specific goal that was with my specific needs. And some of that wasn't just losing weight, but to be able to eat better, to be able to live a healthier life so I can be able to live a little longer. That sounded good to me. My friends at Columbia Secret for Weight Loss, Paul Grant and Shaylin, helped me do just that. And they did it without having to do any shots, no pills, just great one-on-one coaching and a plan that was perfect for me. And they can get a plan that's perfect for you. And to learn that secret of losing up to 1 pound of unhealthy fat per day for you and start your own success story, give them a call, 803-824-4210.